Hi there, this is my Les Paul. It's a really beautiful, solid Les Paul guitar with these P90 pickups. It's got a Bigsby and it's an absolutely wonderful guitar. But the problem for me is, of course, it's too heavy because I'm a 70-year-old man still playing in a band, and to have this thing around my neck for a couple of hours every Saturday night is not fun. And though I'd love to be able to use this guitar, I can't. I tend to use a Stratocaster, but the other week I wasn't very happy with the sound of it, and I happened to have another Les Paul with me, and I thought, second half of the gig, I'll try that and see if I like it. So I'll show you that guitar now. So here we are. It's lovely, isn't it? This is a Gibson ES Les Paul from 2016. Belongs to a good friend of mine who very kindly lent it to me. The ES stands for Electro Spanish. So as you can see from the F holes here, it's not a solid guitar. It's been hollowed out at the top and the bottom. There is a post through the middle, and of course it makes it significantly lighter. The weight is around £7, give or take a few ounces. And my other Les Paul is well over £9, maybe nearer 10. And you may not think £3 makes a lot of difference, but believe me, it really does. And if you're a guitarist, you play in a band, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I tried this guitar and I absolutely loved it. I was always a Gibson man back in the day, in the 70s, and played a Gibson guitar. I played an ES 175. You may know that as the Stevie Howe guitar. And then I went on to a 335. Great guitars, but for some reason I started using Stratocasters. And anyway, when I picked this guitar up and played it, it felt like coming home. And so the very next day, a typical musician, I started searching eBay and Reverb and all those kind of sites to see if I could get one. And these currently are not available. They were discontinued. This is 2016. I think they were around for a couple of years. Second hand, they go from anything between £2,700 and about £3,500 here in the UK, which is an awful lot of money. And basically, in the band I'm playing at the moment, although I'm a lead guitarist, I'm playing more rhythm than anything, so I'm playing keyboards as well and singing. So it's the rhythm sound that's very, very important. So I thought maybe an Epiphone copy of this would fit the bill. So again, checking eBay, one thing and another, and I found a really lovely Epiphone copy of this guitar for £400. It was quite a long way away, but my wife and I drove down Bank Holiday Monday and picked it up, and I'm going to show it to you now. So here it is. And it's pretty nice, isn't it? It's a wine red colour. Obviously I was a bit worried whether this would be, any good compared to the Gibson. I couldn't find any comparison videos really, so I thought I'd make my own comparison video for you to see. So if you are in the situation I was in a week or so ago, where you're looking at buying a cheaper version of a Gibson, you want to see if the Epiphone version is going to be any good, this may help you. So I'll go through the individual guitars, and at the end of the video I'll play the same riffs and chords on the two guitars with the same settings on my amp. In the background there you might be able to see I've got a Line 6 Helix set up and a microphone, an SM58 on the speaker, and I'll use the same setting so you can compare the sounds, and I'll tell you what I think about the two guitars as we go along. I mean, back in the early days of my playing, which is early 70s, there were some truly terrible copies of Les Pauls which you wouldn't have touched unless you were really, really short of money. So anyway, I'll start with the proper Gibson, and I'll tell you all about it, and then I'll tell you about this one, and then I'll play them both for you, okay? So here we are. This is the real McCoy, a true Gibson guitar. It's the same colour, back and front. I'm no expert on guitar, so I'm not going to get very technical with you. I'm just going to tell you what I know about it and how it feels to me. It's, like I say, a 2016 guitar. I think it has what's known as the Memphis Historic pickups, which are the same as the old patent applied for, the PAFs from the 50s and the 60s. It doesn't have any coil taps, so it's just a straightforward 2 volumes, 2 tones. Like I say, it weighs about £7, made in Memphis. It has the Clouson style pegs, machine heads. These are Clouson Deluxe pegs, and they work very well. I used to have those on my 175. I think it's got a bone nut. yeah, it's a really lovely guitar, and when you pick it up, it kind of screams quality. It's really nice. Just acoustically, it's got a lovely resonant sound. This one's got a nice low action. When my friend brought it round for me, it was a bit too low, I think, so he raised it slightly, but it's, you know, it's really low action, really nice to play. The neck feels perfect for my big hands. I've got very long fingers. I haven't got particularly big, like fat fingers, but they're very long, but it feels very comfortable in my hands. Having said that, my proper Les Paul I showed you earlier is the old baseball bat neck, absolutely massive, which also feels good, but it's really lovely. When you go to bend the string, like a B string 15th fret, and do a bit of vibrato, and the G, it just feels like butter. It's lovely and smooth, and as you would expect from a guitar that costs this amount of money. I mean, I think the amount of money these cost is pretty crazy, you know, ridiculous in fact. But you know, that's the market today, and obviously they'll always charge what the market will stand. It's got the toggle switch with the old poker chip, treble, rhythm. So the treble obviously brings in the bridge pickup, and the rhythm brings in the neck pickup, and obviously in the middle it's both of them. Nothing complicated here. I believe the original scratch plate was cream. My friend's put this transparent one on, which looks pretty good, I think. And it's light, so for someone like me, someone as old and decrepit as me, this is a brilliant guitar to play in a band. The set of strings on this are the same as on the other one. They're 9s, so fairly light gauge strings. And you'll notice one little feature which some people like. I'm not so struck on that. On the truss rod cover, you've got that F hole to match the F holes on the body. If I'd have had between £2,700 and £3,500 spare, I probably would have gone straight out and bought one of these. But the idea was to get a really good rhythm sound, and more of that later. Let's have a look at the other guitar. Now this one supposedly weighs the same as its Gibson counterpart, but I don't know whether it's psychological, but because it's a copy, it feels slightly heavier. I have weighed them and they both weigh £7 according to my scales, but you know, I'm not that accurate with my measuring. I do the normal thing, I weigh myself and then hold on to the guitar, stand on the scales, and then see what the difference is. But it should be the same, but it does feel, I have to say, a little bit heavier. Maybe the neck is a bit heavier, so that makes it feel different. Anyway, supposedly it's £7. It certainly will be fine for me for stage. It's in this lovely wine red colour with the cream scratch plate, cream poker chip. This is called the ES Les Paul Pro, same year as the proper Gibson, 2016. Pickups on these are called Pro Buckers. These pickups are inspired by the Gibson Burst Buckers. So they're humbucking pickups, as far as I'm concerned. Both the guitars have got humbuckers, and that's as technical as I can get. You haven't got the noise that you get with a Strat or a Telecaster, in other words. This one's got an extra feature over the Gibson. It has coil taps on the two pickups, so you can split the coil in half, get a thinner, more stratty sound if you want to. Must admit, I haven't done that because that's kind of defeating the object of what I want to do. Now, this is a copy, and straight away, you know, when you pick it up, it doesn't feel like the kind of quality that the other guitar does. You know, it doesn't feel like a terrible guitar, don't get me wrong. It still feels a really nice guitar. Nothing like those horrific 70s copies. But it's, you know, it's not a Gibson. Let's be honest here, it really isn't. And it doesn't feel like a Gibson particularly. It feels a bit heavier and clunkier. I mean, it's finished really well. There's no problems. The frets feel fine. They're rounded off. There's no nasty sharp edges. We've got Grover machine heads on this one, and they are Grover. They say Grover on them, and they work really well. They're possibly better than the Clousons on the proper Gibson. They feel really nice. We've got just, you know, a plastic nut. You wouldn't expect a bone nut, I suppose. And the tone bend test. Yeah, I mean, you can feel straight away that it's not as smooth. It works fine. I can bend the string a tone, put some vibrato on it, and it feels fine, but it's not as smooth as you would find on the Gibson. It's also horribly out of tune again. I did tune it about 10 minutes ago, which is a bit of a slight worry. I'll tune it again, come back to you. Like its Gibson counterpart, I don't think it's made anymore, this guitar, and I think they were about £450, £470 new. I paid £400 for this, so I paid quite a lot of money for a second-hand guitar. I only did that because there weren't that many around, and this was something I could go and pick up, and it was in pretty much mint condition, no nasty scratches or buckle rash on the back. A really nice guitar that had obviously been looked after. These don't come in a case, and I would simply put it in a gig bag, and that's another point, isn't it? You know, when you're playing on stage with a band with, you know, leads and drums and cymbals and guitars all over the place, in my case keyboards as well, it's very easy for guitars to get knocked. And if I've got a guitar that's, you know, could potentially be worth £3,500, it's a bit of a worry. This £400 guitar won't worry me anywhere near as much. I will take care of it, of course, but I won't be so panic stricken as I would be with a proper Gibson guitar. The action on this one is not quite as good as the Gibson. I did try and lower it a little bit. It came, I think, with 10s on it. I put 9s, and I did try and lower the bass end here with this ring, but it did start to sort of clack a bit, so I've raised it to what it was. I think the guy who had it had probably got it set, you know, to its optimum, and it's fine. Feels nice to play. It's got a nice tone acoustically. Obviously that's kind of neither here nor there. I mean, these guitars are great for sort of sitting and noodling because you can hear them much louder than you can a solid body electric guitar. These guitars are made in China. That's not to say that this is a bad guitar, but just so you know, I know people worry about that kind of thing, but you know, it is a fantastically made guitar, and it's finished pretty well as far as I can see. But the acid test is, what does it sound like? Now, like I mentioned earlier, what I'm looking for is a really good rhythm sound. So we'll play the same thing on both guitars. I'll play some stuff that is kind of a changed version of a famous riff, or a changed version of a famous chord sequence, so I don't get done for copyright. But you'll get the drift, I'm sure. And I'll try and give you a bit of rhythm, a nice clean sound, a bit of chorus, and I'll do some distortion as well. And you should get an idea, and then I'll sum up with what I think at the end. Right, so I've got what I call my Sultans of Swing patch here on my Helix, which is, as you can hear, just a nice clean sound. I've got the drive turned right down. I don't want any distortion on this. And it's just a nice normal sound. I'll play it with the bridge pickup first of all, which you can hear straight away is thinner, isn't it, obviously. And then I'll do exactly the same thing on the Epiphone. So here we go. What can I do here? You should recognise the rhythm of this pattern, but I'll change the chord slightly. I mean, it doesn't sound terrible, does it? It's a matter of preference, you know, on the sound you like, but to my ears, that sounds pretty nice. Okay, so the real Gibson again, and you can see I've got the pickup selector in the middle, so both pickups on, everything turned full up, same chord progression. Okay, so it's not as refined as the Gibson, I think, to my ears, just listening to it there. But I'd say it's very acceptable. And you know what it's like when you're in a band and everyone's playing, it's not quite so critical, is it? What do you want? You want a nice warm rhythm sound, not too trebly, not too bassy or boomy. And to my mind, you know, this is, you know, doing that job pretty well. Right, let's go back to the Gibson and try something else. I'm going to play a bit of lead guitar using what I call Clean Boogie Plus. It's kind of a Mesa Boogie kind of setup. Obviously, it's nothing like a proper Mesa Boogie, I'm not going to pretend, but it sounds pretty good. It's quite loud, but I think it'll be okay. Looking at my levels here. So I'm going to play it on the bridge pickup. I'll do the same thing on the Epiphone, and then I'll do the same thing using both pickups. Okay, so here we go. So, bit of lead guitar. It's a clean sound with a bit of oomph, a bit of breakup. The lead guitarist in my band has a phrase he uses. He talks about guitars fighting back, and this one, I could feel it there. Not as easy to play as the Gibson, but I think the sound was pretty good. Now with both pickups. Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible, is it? I mean, again, matter of preference, but I'm not sort of thinking, God, this really sounds terrible compared to the Gibson. I'm just thinking, it sounds good, it's different, but it's not horrible, is it? Right, let's try something else now. What I'm using now is a kind of chorusy sound, nice clean sound. I'll do a bit of rhythm, a bit of picking, okay? So here we go with the bridge pickup on the Gibson. Do a bit of picking on the same sequence. And some picking. Here's the same thing with both pickups. And now just the picking. picking. I mean, I'm being very honest here and saying, okay, I probably psychologically I want this to be as good as the Gibson, and certainly from a playing point of view, it isn't as good, no doubt about it. The Gibson is much nicer to play, but sound-wise, I'm not sure which one I prefer, which I suppose is a pretty good sign, isn't it? Let's go for some distortion now. Okay, back to the Gibson here. I've kind of changed a very well-known riff so that I don't get a copyright strike. I'm sure you'll understand where I'm going with this one. What I've done with this is I'm using just the neck pickup. I've rolled all the treble off to get this sound, and you'll see what I mean. See what you think of this. I'll do it, you know, with full treble as well in a moment. Going to go, isn't it? You can hear that. Probably needs a bit of tone. I'm just going to introduce a bit of treble on that tone control. Yeah, pretty nice. Let's go the opposite way now. Full treble on the bridge pickup. But you can hear with a bit more volume that's going to feed back really nicely. So two extremes on the Gibson now. How will the Epiphone stack up against that? Yeah, it's not as refined, is it? You can hear it's a little bit of a struggle. Playing wise, it's definitely not as easy as it is on the Gibson. I'm talking, you know, very fine increments here. It's not like terrible compared to the Gibson, but it's definitely not as easy to play. I'm going to do the feedback test now, see if I can get some nice sweet feedback. Oh, that's nice. got it to go. So with the feedback competition, I think the Gibson wins, but I did get a nice tone out of the Epiphone there at the end, but it is turned up pretty loud, I have to say, here in the house. So there we are. That's a fairly thorough workout for both guitars. What did you think? Let me know in the comments, obviously. I'm pretty happy with this Epiphone. £400. It's going to do, I'm pretty sure, what I want it to do. Obviously the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, and this Saturday I have a gig. It's an open air gig, so that'll be interesting to see and hear how it works out, and I'll obviously get back to you, let you know how I get on. But I'm not displeased with this at all. I'm not thinking, God, this is a real poor relation. I just want to chuck it away and go out and buy a proper Gibson. I'm not thinking that at all, and maybe you're thinking the same, or perhaps you're thinking that's nowhere near as good as the real thing. There's a lot of snob value with this kind of thing. Not so much with Epiphone, because I think most people recognise that even though Epiphone is made, or a lot of them are made in China now, it's still a pretty good guitar. It's not as if it's a never heard of brand copy. So there we are. I'm pretty lucky, aren't I, to have the opportunity to play these two wonderful guitars. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and you'll see me in my next video. Thanks for watching.